Later than planned. Welcome to Middle Earth readings. I had problems with my camera, which seems to be a new issue being experienced. Today in our planetary readings, we're going to be looking at vision and values. And I had a reminder of this just before we were starting, because my camera issue only took a few minutes to resolve. But prior to that, my neighbours, suddenly there was loads of noise coming through the wall. I was like, what's the noise? What is that? What is that? And I think they're having their windows replaced, and they were fine. And I went and said, need to do this piece, and it's all quiet and calm now and peaceful. And it reminds me that the theme that we're actually going to be working on is vision and values, where sometimes our vision for what we want to achieve, namely I want to start at 11 a.m. and I want to deliver Middle Earth readings to you, is obscured for whatever reason. Things go wrong, technology goes wrong, sound comes along. And when that is the case, we become guided by our values, become guided by what's important to us. Obviously, my relationship with my neighbours is important to me, and being able to deliver this without the noise is important to me. And so that speaking had to come in, that negotiating and that mediating. And it reminds me that we are going to be looking at two planetary movements. And the first of those planetary movements is Frigg's Chariot. So that's the Roman equivalent of Venus, is moving into Algiz. In fact, has moved into Algiz today. She's moving today. And during the course of, during an 18-month period of time, the sun, soon as Chariot is moving steadily on her course through all of the half months. And Odin's Chariot and Frigg's Chariot, they move very much around the sun. They're not very often far from the sun. Sometimes they are obscured by the sun. We can't see them because they're so close to where Suna is. And Odin is popping backwards and forwards in and out of retrograde reasonably frequently, which means that sometimes he's ahead of the sun and sometimes he's behind the sun. Whereas Frigg, because she only goes into retrograde every 18 months, she has a steadier course, and at the moment she is very much in the lead. She's always the first of Suna and Odin and herself to move into the next rune. So she's leading that conscious weaving of weird that we are doing all of the time. And whereas Odin draws us with vision, he draws us with inspiration, he draws us in through purpose and ideals and all of these things. He said, here, the thing. And we're like, yeah, let's go for the thing. And we follow it and we follow that vision. Frigg keeps us grounded within our values and reminds us that so many human endeavours have fallen because a vision has been pursued without the pursuit of the values that keep us grounded and keep us in kindness and keep us with our people. And Frigg's Chariot very much draws us into collaboration. She is a goddess who has the Aesignor. She has often cited as being 12, sometimes there's more, of her handmaidens called the Aesignor who work with her. She obviously shares the throne with Odin, and he is very collaboration oriented, but he does have this much stronger purpose driven mission. And Frigg in many ways holds back from purpose. I think that might be because the times when she has had visions and she's pursued them on her own behalf, it hasn't gone very well for her. And so she now sits very much in that space of value. She's known often as the silent goddess because she doesn't speak very often. She doesn't speak unless she's got something important to say. And she's realised, I think, that sometimes fate has to play out. Sometimes others have to make their own mistakes. Sometimes we have to sit in silence. So there is a lot of wisdom that she brings for us. And when moving into Algiz, the rune of protection, the rune of communication with the divine, she is reminding us of the power of silence, both in terms of that pause, say like an opportunity is presented to you, or there's a moment where things go horribly wrong and suddenly there's loud noises coming through the walls and your camera won't work. She says, hold on, pause for a moment. What's what's the most important thing here. Now, I didn't do that straight away when I had the technology thing. I was like, quick, go and solve this and solve that and do this. And then I went, hold on, have the pause moment. When I had the pause moment, I went, hold on, communication is very important. So I popped a little note into the hearth space just to say, bear with me, this is what's happening. But when we don't do that, when we don't take that moment of pause and that moment of silence and that moment to step inside, which is very much a theme that's going to be coming up through the course of the month as we work with Jan Saxa, we can be guided by the crisis of the moment, and we can become very reactive, and we can lose our navigational equipment, particularly if we, let's say, have realised that we're being guided by stuff that's conditioned, or we're told, this is the way that we need to do things, and we're going, no, I need to feel inside more deeply into what my heart tells me. So Frigg is inviting us into that, and she's also saying that the power of silence is sometimes about not sharing our most intimate dreams, our ideals, our, like the germinating seeds of something new with other people too soon. That there is something beautiful about that magical space, that sort of incubation space. It's a little bit like the Ingu's rune, where it stays within the silence there of tending and nurturing. And when we do choose to share something, I don't know, you could say like a poem you've written or an idea that you've had, choose very wisely who you share them with. This is one of my business mentors, Sarah Price, talks about this quite a lot, and I always think she's very wise. She said, we often go to people like, let's say you had an idea for a business that you want to run. That's what she does. She also has purpose-led entrepreneurs. She said, why would you go, which most people do, to your spouse or your sister or your mom or your dad and say, I've got this amazing idea for a business that, on this specialist area that I've been working on for years and years and years. Doesn't it sound great? And they're like, oh, no. Stay in the city. No. And they give you all of the stuff. They are not business leaders in the area, unless they are business leaders in the area that you want to launch a business in. Why do you choose them? They're not going to be able to bring you their expertise. They're going to bring you all of their fear about protecting you and holding you safe in your cocoon and saying, stay where you are, stay where you're safe. That's often what happens. And we often choose people who we want their blessing, but they're not always the people who can offer us the support for our work. So it's thinking about that selection piece. So Frigg is offering us to that piece of wisdom right from today up until the 21st of January. We're in that space. So just remember the pause and remember, who am I offering this? Who am I offering this to? Michelle, thank you. I'm glad that you like my blouse. I like this with the stars on as well. And then soon as Chariot is going to be moving into Perthrow on the 13th, so later in the week, and really bringing... There's a little bit of a reiteration of energy that you might be familiar with from 2020. This feeling of there's a big Perthrow flux of energy that we're moving through with Hela's Chariot in Perthrow at the moment. It brings uncertainty. It brings the need to surrender to the moment. And in some ways, that is the precursor to what I was talking about with the moment of silence. When things go wrong, you can rage against it and become reactive and at it. I defy you, stars. Is that Romeo? I think that might be Romeo from Romeo and Juliet. And you can do that, and Perthrow goes, all right, go ahead. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change the situation. So if we want to move with Perthrow, we almost have to let go. Have that moment of letting go and allowing yourself to free fall. It's a little bit like when you dive into water and you're spinning in the water and you go down into the water, and there's this moment where if you become disoriented and you no longer know which way is up, you have to stop and you have to allow your body to readjust and hopefully to start to rise a little bit. So you go, okay, I'm starting to rise upwards, and then you realise which way is up. You either through there's light above you, or you have to reach into all of your senses and give yourself the ability to do that in order to know which way to swim. And that is what Perthrow is all about. It's saying, relax into the moment. and allow yourself to be carried where fate is going. So there's a surrender aspect to that as well. So with this, the Algiz rune of silence and introspection, and then we have the Perthrow rune of surrendering and letting go. You'll see I've been talking about this with people who are on the Sooner Star, where we've been looking at the energies for the full month ahead. This idea of introspection and quiet, and that the year doesn't just go, right, 1st of January, that's it, I know exactly what I'm doing, these are my plans, go. No, that's not energetically how it works. From my perspective, there is a circle of birthing and dying which is taking place all of the time. You can even see it from the very point of the summer solstice, you know, the longest day, and then it stops, and then it starts to get darker, and you could argue that the new year starts its process of birthing then. And then it continues and it continues and it continues. And when we get through this period of time, we're looking at the sun is still very low in the sky, very weak in some ways. This is the northern hemisphere. And it's encouraging us to feel that light within us. Again, it's that Perthrow thing of going, okay, I don't have the sun to guide me. What does my inner light tell me? What does my connection to spirit tell me? And I haven't published anything about it yet, but I'm giving you all a heads up now that I'm planning to do another event, like a mini online retreat, like we did at the Winter Nights retreat, because people seem to enjoy it and I enjoy doing it, around about Imbolc through sort of early February, to support that feeling into your own light, feeling into your own navigational equipment, feeling into your own needs, what your body is saying to you, what your spirit is saying to you, to support this energy as we come through. So those are the two shifts that we have happening this week. For context, so we're thinking about values in particular, being guided by our values, being guided by our inner navigational equipment when the way outside seems unclear, when the sun is still not, you know, high in the sky, and Odin isn't there, he's in retrograde, so he really isn't there going this way. What do we do? What do we do then? So with that, let's have a look at your runes for the week. And thank you to everybody who was patient, waiting for me to start. Obviously, that was not my ideal. It's not in keeping with my vision, but I did my best, and that's all that we can do. Carolyn, you have Urus for the week. Urus is an interesting one, because although it's a rune of power and will, you know, and strength and might with the great aurochs, it is also a rune of deep silence, and there is an acceptance that comes with it as well. I often think of it being related to Perthrow, when it is in that quiet, still place of really feeling into our connection with nature. There's almost when I think of Urus, I often think about that toasting. It's the symbol rite that we do. Here we go, our Urus rune here, where we toast and we make commitments for what we're going to achieve through the week ahead or the month ahead. And more with the symbol rite, I am seeing, unless you're doing a dedicated, very important ceremony that you've planned for a long time, like, I'm going on a great mighty voyage to discover the Americas, something along those lines, that our symbol rites are about building luck, about creating our store of heminia, as it was known, of personal luck, where we make commitments that are for the week ahead, not for the month necessarily, because the energy changes and the energy shifts each time, and more can be done when we focus on what's in our hands in the here and now than if we look too far ahead. And with the Urus rune there, I think that it is very much talking about that. It is saying there might be it might be about shifting, is the sense that I'm getting. It's almost what are the things that need to be shifted, that are in your power to shift through the course of this week, and perhaps just looking at 1, 2, maybe 3 that you can say, yeah, there's maybe some resistance here, which the Urus energy I can use to move forward. But what I'm not going to do is to worry about the really big picture. Oh, my Urus rune has just fallen to the ground. As I said that, almost like, no, don't think about the big picture. That's like a big chasm that your Urus energy would end up being poured into this chasm of uncertainty. You know, as I was saying with this vision piece of saying, oh, where is it that I'm going? What is it that I'm doing? And if we do that, we lose ourselves at this point in time. So it's saying, what are the things that you can do this week that you can bring that strength of Urus to? There might be a little bit of push energy that's needed around that, but that helps us gather momentum and the wheel starts to turn at that point. Esther, you have got Algiz. That's very lovely, with Frigg's Chariot being in Algiz at the moment. So you're going to be wanting to look at your Frigg's Chariot. Very conveniently for you, we are having a masterclass in the Birth Rune Soul Journey group on Frigg's Chariot this very day, which I am having fun preparing. The Odin in retrograde is really helping with the technology on that front, I can assure you. So here we have our Algiz rune. I'm feeling for you as it's the energy of the Bifrost Bridge, of the rainbow bridge between the Earth and Asgard, is what I'm feeling. Might be because I've just watched the most recent Thor film, which was both appalling and fun. And there was a lot. They did the Bifrost Bridge, and they had the goats, Thor's goats, pulling this great chariot across the Bifrost Bridge, which I greatly enjoyed. And so when I feel into this Algiz rune, it almost feels to me as if it's saying that there are many, many paths, that the energy of Bifrost, the energy of this rainbow bridge that connects the earth and the heavens, isn't just here's a bridge that we cross and that we can go and we can journey over and imagine ourselves, moving through the rainbow, which I've done for people on Idresel's Path this year. We did some work with that, moving through the rainbow to access the realm of Asgard. But it's also recognizing that each one of us is an embodiment of the Bifrost Bridge when we channel the vision, the values, when we bring them through. And for you, Esther, I'm almost seeing it as imagining that you are standing in the light of the rainbow, and that it is coming through your heart center and then moving outwards into the world, and that there isn't any need to bring any conscious, I need to do this, I need to do that, this is my vision, this is my values, this is what I'm doing in the head. It's much more about energetically feeling that sense of embodying that channel, embodying that, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe channel is the best way of looking at it. Being the bridge, and just imagining that rainbow energy coming through as you do that. Karen, you have Feyu Merkstave. So this is actually very in keeping. So we had our Feyu full moon this month, and normally that's a real high point. There's lots of energy available to us because of that. But because of where we are with the half month of Iwaz for the sun and Odin in retrograde and all of the other stuff going on, it's Feyu's energy remains finite, so it's about our ability to channel it. It was similar to what I was saying to Carolyn around don't make really big, unachievable commitments that just weigh you down and burden you and bring confusion. Focus on small, achievable things. It's bringing a lot of mindfulness to the way in which Feyu is channeled. And for you, because it is the Merkstave, I'm almost feeling it's those draws on your energy and paying a lot of attention to them, to where other people are asking you to channel your energy towards something that's perhaps not yours. I don't know if anyone has noticed, but I think this is now the third Middle Earth readings where I have to go through almost the entire pack before the right rune comes. So then we have Feyu, and when it's in its Merkstave position, it looks like this. And I always feel it's almost like instead of receiving energy from above, you could think of it as like solar energy, like the Feyu is like a tree drawing it down, and the solar energy becomes Ordhumla, the primal cow, who is known to sort of indiscriminately feed all beings. She's like this abundant source of energy and life force. When Feyu is pointed downwards like that, we're drawing energy up. We're drawing it up from the earth, really, which is, a reflection, perhaps an echo, you could say, of Ordhumla's energy. It's certainly a massive energy source, but it's still slightly less abundant than Ordhumla in the grand scheme of things, if you think about her as being bigger than the universe. So I would actually be doing I would be doing as much grounding and centering work as you can, Karen. I would be doing as much drawing up earth energy, and by that I'm thinking that really that golden, delicious, warm, like magma, lava energy. Somebody could correct me on those, because I think magma's on the surface and lava's underneath, or the other way around. But you're drawing it up from underneath the earth, up into your body, and you're focusing on recharging yourself, not on giving your energy to other people, is what the Feiyu rune is offering to you there. Lauren, hello, I'm so happy that you could arrive here as well. Lovely to see you. Please do share your rune if you're able. Michelle, you have Ingus. We talked a little about Ingus, and it's a very appropriate rune for this period of time. With Frigg, she's liking the Ingus rune. With Ingus, it often embodies that partnership between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, where the divine masculine surrenders to the cycle that the divine feminine offers of birth and death, and allows itself to be transformed through it. And there are times, and if you've met anybody who's got Ingus in their birth rooms, there are times when they can be very, very introverted, like away in their own little space. And there are times when they'll just be like, boom, out there, and you're like, oh, interesting. How do those two things happen? And it's because it is the union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine that has occurred in somebody who is very well expressed in their Ingus energy, and therefore they are able to draw on what they need and to respond to events in the moment, and to surrender when they need to without feeling like that's going to break their egos, and they can wait and they can be patient. All of these things come through with the Ingus rune, with the Ingus seed. And it's a very complementary rune to the Feiyu rune, in fact, that we were talking about, because the Feiyu rune is sort of sending all of the energy out in all places. Ingus is drawing it in, bundling it all together, becoming that little cauldron space, and it can seem very small. And there's a little piece there, I think, Michelle, picking up on the theme we've talked about of small actions, of recognizing that sometimes those very small actions have big ripple effects. So look for those in your life right now. You might want to do some journaling on that. You might want to look back over the past year, because we're still in the place where we can do that, because it's the seed energy as well. And you might think about, what are very small things that I can do that plant a seed for something I want to reap in the future. So you could think about it in terms of, if I've got a project I want to bring forward, or something that I want to achieve through the course of the coming year, rather than thinking about what actions that I need to take, you might think about who might I need to speak to, and not necessarily to say, I've got a project, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But to reach out to and to reconnect with, so that you are forming the network through which the energy will flow when the Ingus seed is ready. It's attending to your network and thinking about it in terms of what your purpose is calling you into through the course of the year. And I want to touch a base on this a little bit, because I find this really interesting, that the organisation that I work with as a coach, bearing in mind we're talking about the balance between divine feminine and divine masculine, has found that in a professional context, if we think about our impact work, whether we're, it doesn't need to be paid or not paid, you might think about it as vocation or calling. Men in general, or people with high masculine energy, are better at networking for things that they want than women are. Women, or people with high feminine energy, are better at networking for things that they can give. And maybe that needs to shift just a little bit, regardless of which side you're on or you see yourself on there. So I'm just going to put that into the mix there. I found that really interesting that was the case. That it's not necessarily that one is right or wrong, but that we need to be able to shift between the two and say, sometimes, yes, sometimes I'm out there, I'm there for my people, ready to offer them whatever they need. But if you're going to do that, if you think about the Gibo rune, it's a different rune, but it seems to be important at this point. The Gibo rune says we must be in exchange. That is the only way that it works. We can't just be always taking or always giving. We have to do both. Where are we with this? So Michelle, you've had Ingus. Amy, you have, Amy, you've also got Ingus. I will come back if anything else comes up on Ingus there, but I'm going to, because I think we've covered Ingus, we've already covered it twice because I talked about it earlier as well. So feel into what I've said around the Ingus rune for you there, Amy. Patricia, you've got Yera, which again, very nice in keeping with the Ingus rune. There's some really complementary energies going on there. I always love it when they speak to each other like that. So the Yera rune is the rune of the year. So whereas the seed, you can think about the tiny little seed of the Ingus rune, the Yera rune embodies the entire year, and its shape is like an Ingus rune in its diamond form. The Ingus rune can also be shaped like a little DNA helix. I don't know why I'm pointing in the air as if you're going to be able to read what I just did that as a symbol. It's like a cross like that, I want to say. Yeah, like that. There you go. With the two of them. So that's one shape of the Ingus rune. The other that I tend to use is the diamond shape, just because otherwise I get it confused with a thala. The Yera rune has the same two bits, but they are different. So the Yera rune is the only one that has the two parts of it aren't touching. There's a void in the centre where everything grows and is held. So it's a holding, containing rune, but in a different way to Ingus. Ingus is inside. Yera, the space in the middle, is very important, and the two halves are always circling. Summer and winter, day and night, they're always circling round and around and around and around. The wheel is turning. You know, I was talking about to Carolyn about what are the small things that we can do to get momentum going in the wheel. When the wheel is turning, we get Yera, and Yera is the rune of success and harvest. So it's a really great energy to be in. The only thing to bear in mind with Yera is that when it says, you know, success and harvest, when it comes up in a reading, often it can mean, hooray, the success and harvest is going on. And it can be difficult, because if it's the way it's done, to recognise when it's in a different shape. So let's look at, say, like this one here. If it was that way up, you might say that one of those energies was more dominant at the time, or that the one was receiving more and the other one was giving more. It might be that, you know, that's winter and that's summer. There we are in the northern hemisphere. There's everyone else down in the southern hemisphere, you know, and they're just circling each other, you know, all of the time as they go. And so part of what the Yera rune counsels is, it doesn't always mean you are now in a space of harvest and success. It means be absolutely present and mindful to the cycle that's going on for you, whether that is where you are in the year or with the things that you are wanting to achieve at the moment. You might look at projects and say, okay, where am I in the cycle of this project? Am I at the beginning with the tender shoots of the project? In which case, I'm not going to talk about them because of where we've talked about that earlier with Frigg's Chariot. Am I in the hard work phase with the summer? You know, it's all coming out. Am I in the autumn phase of pruning things back and tending? Or am I in the winter phase of rest? So Patricia, for you, I almost feel as if Yera is inviting you to start to set up some habits for yourself, which are about saying, I don't try and do everything at the same time. I work on where I am in the cycle. And if you want some more, obviously I've done a very short précis of something that I normally work on people for a much longer period of time with. So if you're interested, you can get in touch. There are one-to-one sessions available with me at the moment. Share, you have Tewaz, upside down, pointing downwards. There you go. There's our Tewaz rune pointing downwards. It's like it's drilling into the earth. Ooh, interesting energy going on there. I have to say I could do it on the side now because it's coming up and it won't go away. I've been working with my son. He's very into Pokemon and he wants to be a different Pokemon every day. And he asked me what each of the days means. So obviously then we had to choose Pokemon that were in keeping with the energy of the gods that are there on the different days. So he's been choosing his Tuesday Tewaz Pokemon at the moment. And we've been looking at these like steel energy, active Pokemon that he can choose and then embody for the course of the day. I feel this is a very cunning way of bringing in the northern tradition into my son's current interest in Pokemon, personally. But there you go, it's just me. And I think that with your Tewaz rune, Share, there is a sense in which, sometimes with the Tewaz rune, when it's this way down, it's saying don't take action, and normally that would be what I would feel. I'd be like, okay, this is an affirmation. It's saying that stillness is needed and that patience is needed. But I feel almost as if this is saying it's like a different perspective. It's needed. It's almost like for children's book, when it says if you can't go over it, we're going on a bear hunt, can't go over it, can't go under it, you've got to go through it. And I feel as if that's what this rune is saying. It's saying you've got to go through it. And it's saying trust that you're going to be able to do this. And it might be a bit blah, but you have the power of whatever steel type Pokemon you choose to bring to mind in this case. I know that sounds flippant, but for my son at the moment, his most alive mythology is Pokemon. He feels their power and their strength, and that's why he wants to choose one for each day. We might say, I'm feeling into Tyr here, and Tyr chooses, he doesn't take the easy path, he takes the path that he knows is right. And I feel as if that's what he's saying here. He's saying it might not be the one that's going to be the most straightforward and get you through as quickly as possible, but remembering that we're talking about values at the moment, it's saying in order to be in integrity, what do you need to do? And it might not be easy, and you might have to bed down a little bit in order to do it, sort of drilling down into the earth and digging your way through in order to do it. But that is what Tyr is recommending at the moment. So it's not a stillness rune on this occasion. It's much more about values and saying, follow those. It might feel hard, but it will ultimately be a better choice for you. Deanne says, yay to my first Middle-earth reading. Yay, Deanne. Good morning from Michigan. So your rune for the week is also Feyu, but I think it was Karen, wasn't it, who had Feyu, but hers was a Merc stave. So your rune with Feyu coming through is going to mean that full moon energy was more powerful and stronger for you, and it's still available to you. If you're unfamiliar with the way that I talk about the moon or Mani's chariot, the new moon and the full moon bring this sort of tidal current of energy that then moves through the course of the month, like the tide going in and out. So there's this sort of rush of Feyu energy which is coming. And so for you, there is a higher level of access to Feyu energy than might be the case for most people, which is lovely. But what it's saying still is, because we're not in the space of, go out there, do loads of stuff, go and buy shiny things, which is what Feyu might be, not really. But, that sense of like abundance everywhere that Feyu brings. For you, it is almost about tending to that abundance and tending to those moments of pleasure in particular. For those of you who have done the Feyu Awakening module with me, I talk about the story of Gulveg, who is she's like a giantess who comes to visit the gods. And it's this really intriguing story about the way in which she's talking to them about the value of gold, which it was a great learning journey for me when I started to feel into this story, because all of my instincts were to say, well, that seems very, what's the word I'm looking for? Capitalist? Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with capitalist, but consumer focused maybe is a better word than capitalist. It was sort of like selfish in some way. It felt like a selfish energy. She was sort of like, oh, look at the gold, it's so wonderful, it's so brilliant. And Odin gets so annoyed, he burns her. I'm not going to ruin the story here. It's worth doing the Feyu module for other reasons, and the story is much longer than this one. He burns her, he gets annoyed, and I was like, well, now I'm confused. I thought she was the villain because she's the one talking about gold, but now he burns her and I don't know what's going on. And she is in many ways an initiator. That's why I see her now. She's an initiator into our ability to step into pleasure and abundance, which can be incredibly difficult for people who follow a spiritual path, who see the amount of material consumption taking place in our world right now and instinctively step away from it. And what Freya in particular invites us into, often people think of Gulveg as being Freya, not always, but often, she invites us into this recognition that materialism itself is not evil or wrong. Anything taken to an extreme can be evil or wrong. And that treating objects as precious is actually the opposite of materialism. Because if we treat something as precious and we love it, we don't throw it away, we don't stop valuing it, we don't think, I need to go and get another thing. We continue to feel the worth and the value of the thing that we have, and so we need less. is what she is saying. And I don't know why that's important at this point for you, Deanne, but that's the story that wants to come through. It's almost saying embracing that side within you. If you've ever felt any judgment from other people or judgment inside about that, aspect, which is such a human aspect. This valuing of gold, which is so important in the northern tradition. If you look at the way that when you have like a gold on your skin, says Frigg, she says, look at how beautiful it looks. It's that pleasure, that stepping into pleasure and valuing it and seeing it as divine and sacred. That's what she invites us into. And then Chen, you have Rado. Didn't you have Rado before, Chen? Or was it Kinas? I'm not sure. They seem to be, there's definitely a sort of ritual aspect here, a routine aspect. I'm feeling into Rado at the moment. I feel as if I'm not expressing my Rado energy as strongly as I could be at the moment. Here's the Rado rune. It's come up really, really quickly there, which is really nice. Rune of the road, rune of ritual, rune of rhythm. And I'm seeing a road. And I think it is actually the value of walking, and also the value of travel as a form of shifting energy. I was talking to Carolyn about using the Uruz rune to shift energy. It's recognizing with the Rado rune that our rituals and our routines and our habits are not designed to constrain us in a particular way of being. They're designed to help us to maintain momentum, which is, I think, something that we often forget because we think, that this day was the same as yesterday. Well, I want something different. I want something new. And what Rado says is, it says, no, each moment that is of routine or ritual is a maintaining of momentum that allows your energy to shift into the next thing that you need to do and the next thing that you need to do. It allows you to leave behind the old energy of the thing that you were just doing and to move into the next phase. So they become almost like doorways that you're walking through. And when it talks about, for you, Chen, about saying, when I saw that sort of road movement, it's almost bringing a mindfulness to every time you stand up and walk around the room. And you might even do that more frequently than you would, imagining that you are taking a journey and that you are shifting state from who I was then when I was doing that task, and I'm moving, and then I'm shifting into who do I need to be now. And so it could be walking around the room, it could be going for an actual walk, it could be when I clean my teeth, it could be anything that is an action that we take, that we see as being mundane, I suppose, and actually, again, claiming them as sacred. So I can feel a little bit of a theme developing with Deanne and then Chen around claiming the sacred from things that we perhaps judge as being wrong or boring or negative in some way. So have a little play with that, Chen, see what comes up for you. Suzanne, lovely to see you. So your rune is Perthrow, so you're going to really enjoy it when soon as Chariot moves into Perthrow. It's what I'm seeing for you actually is like a pool, like a Perthrow pool within the ice. When people created, what are they called? Well, holes, I suppose. I'm going to call them holes. I'm sure there's a technical term for, like a fishing hole or something like that on the ice, and that we think that the ice is a space of stillness where life cannot exist, and yet we know that that is not true, and that I'm actually thinking on a global scale now. If you think about the climate change, we know that actually life is dependent on the realms of ice for its continued growth. The cycles of ice and fire are being disrupted at this moment in time, and we are feeling those results. And so it's recognizing the ice as a life-giving force, and that the Perthrow cauldron is almost the thing that it's being held by the ice. If I can find the Perthrow rune for those of you who aren't familiar with it. It's one of the runes that doesn't look very much like its modern letter equivalent, so it's a little bit tougher to remember. Here we go. Here's the Perthrow rune. So it sits on its side like that, but you can work with it as a magical cauldron and place it like this. And I'm seeing the ice as being the container that holds life within it, and it's almost you sort of allowing that really, really deep stillness and rest in the space of winter, and with Frigg and Odin in retrograde, and saying, yeah, I'm going, when I do this, and then I visualize that Perthrow container opening up, I'm almost like you are the fisherman going and cutting the hole in the ice and then dropping down inside and feeling the life that's underneath and drawing up what you need, is the sense that I'm getting. It's a little bit like what we've been talking about with Feyu, around for people who are drawing on the Feyu energy and needing that at the moment. It's almost saying that for you it's the Perthrow energy underneath the ice. I'm going to leave you with that to play with. Carol has Athala, the rune of estate, ancestry, legacy coming through. Oh, Athala is a rune that's sacred to, I find it as being sacred to Odin and Frigg, in fact. I often see it's towards the end of the rune row, it's the 23rd rune. It sometimes switches place with Algiz to become the 24th. We're going to work with it as the 23rd. And I often see a seat or a throne, it's called Hjarlaskjalf, if I want to say, the throne of Odin and Frigg, that's right high up at the very top of Asgard, so they can look out over all of the worlds. And when we get the Athala rune, it is that stepping into a space of vision where we recognise that we are part of the great chain of ancestors, that we are a link in that chain going back through time, and Odin and Frigg are looking out over that, and they're saying, this is my time now. I chose to be born in this lifetime, to step forward in this lifetime, to make my mark in this lifetime. And then you see the vision of what it is that the legacy that you're going to leave, so that the next people to take that, take the torch from you, whatever it is that you're going to connect with them in the great chain as well, you can feel that too. So it's when you're thinking in, sitting there in let's say like introspection mode, which is very much recommended through the course of this time, I would be looking at that from the perspective of, there are things that I've inherited, some which I wish to continue and pursue, and some of which I wish to let go of for myself, but also for the benefit of others moving forward. That's my sovereign right at this point to do that. I am the human being born on this planet, so I get to do that. And then it is also my, it's also my responsibility in some way to recognise that I am only I'm just one piece of the puzzle. And so sometimes when it seems too big and you think this is too big for me, it's recognising that part of your work is linking up with others who are going to be contributing their pieces to the puzzle as well, some of whom will come after you. So all that you need to do is to ensure that there is a legacy for your own work. And again, I want you to think about work in quite a broad way. It doesn't have to be a job, it can be a calling, it can be the way that you are in the world, the values that you choose to inhabit. The question that Athala is asking is, how do you pass them on? How did you receive them and shape them? And how are you passing them on? And Erica, you have Suelo, the rune of the sun, moving forward, the lovely sun wheel. And I'm actually seeing for you, I'm seeing, I often talk about Suelo, about like a Viking ship with the leader at the prow. And as I did it, I could see both it was like a windmill made of like brass or gold or something, or bronze possibly, at the front of the ship, just very slowly turning in the wind, which is very interesting. I have no evidence that there was ever such an object or why it would be useful, but who knows, maybe they would have had, things that would show which direction, like a little weather vane almost on a ship there. And also just that little reminder for me of, and I don't know where it comes from, it's like the spinning disc that they used. If anyone's watched Vikings, you'll know what I mean with that one. And the crystal that there's the sunstone, the mythological sunstone that was said to be there, and that you could catch the rays of the sun from it and understand where the sun was, even if you couldn't see it in the sky. It's all of these things that might have existed in reality. We can't tell one way or the other, or might have been mythological, we're not sure. But it's something about claiming your tools and your mastery of your tools at this point, and seeing them as extensions of yourself. That Suelo is drawing you into. It's sort of saying, yeah, you have built this web of leadership and all of the just recognizing what you have drawn into you, and that there's a sense, there's almost like a feeling of completion. It's saying almost you don't have to draw anything else in if you don't want to through the course of this year. You have what you need, is the sense that I'm getting there, Erica. And then we have Michelle with Northes, so we have another fire rune. We had Suello as a fire rune, and then did I show you the Suello rune? If I didn't, there it is. Then we have our Northes rune, the rune of need and necessity, of the need fire that would have been burning bright at Yule to invite the sun back in, to call the sun back in. But the need fire can also be a personal need fire, lit in times of darkness to call hope, faith, new resources, help, support in, whatever it is that you need. So I'm thinking for you, Michelle, that this might relate to Frigg talking about being silent about our vulnerable dreams, the things that we need. So for you, what I would suggest is perhaps doing a little bit of journaling on what are the things that are emerging for me at the moment, the wants and the desires that are coming through. Here's the Northes rune here. It's often seen as being like a fire making tool, like a bow kindling bow thing. What are they called? Well, you can like two sticks rubbing together, and all of the different ways that you can make fire. It's two objects rubbing together to create fire is essentially what the Northes rune stands for. And doing that work on what is it that's coming through me? What is it what are the dreams that are in there? And if they feel really big or unachievable, or like I'm not big enough to hold them, or maybe they're too selfish. Remember what we were talking about with the Feyre rune earlier? And then starting to do you can either start to do a list of saying, what would the support, what would my ideal support look like? What would permission look like for me to do this? What would the perfect support look like to help me to do this? Just starting to play with that, to create that. And it's almost a manifestation exercise, which is sort of what the Northes rune is at the end of the day. It's the need fire is like the vision board. People often think about the Northes rune as being negative, but it isn't really. It is us being really clear on the present situation needs to evolve, and it might be that it feels like a dark night of the soul, but it might also be that it feels like, well, I've completed that phase of the journey, what's next? And so we need the need fire to say I'm ready. So you could think about the Northes rune as being a very nice energetic vision board. So have a little play with that, Michelle. Have a little play with what are the dreams, what are the quiet dreams that are stirring inside? What support might you need? What permissions might you need? What blessings might you need to bring them forward? Troy, you have Hargalaz, the rune of the hail seeds. We've had Northes, which people often feel a bit like, oh no, Northes, followed by Hargalaz, which people can do the same. The change-making rune of the great feminine coming through and shaking everything up. The divine feminine, Hela, Frau Holder, the wild goddesses coming through and issuing challenge, difficulty. A rite of passage is often the way that you might think about the Hargalaz rune, the initiation of a rite of passage, that it isn't always going to be easy. I'm reminded of the Tewaz rune that we had, the upside down Tewaz rune is a little bit like that. That was with Cher, I think. That sometimes we have to walk with the fate that has been dealt with us and trust that we are strong enough to survive. My experience has been that even in the times where I didn't think that I was going to, I have survived. And so Hargalaz does the same. And its job is to bring disruption, and it is to break stuff, stuff that is no longer working. It is there to be the one, the person with the pan, banging on the pan, saying, no, this is wrong. It's a rune of protest often as well. Sometimes the experience of Hargalaz happens to us, and sometimes we are called to embody the energy of Hargalaz and to be the one who stands and says, I'm going to be disruptive now, and you might find it difficult. I noticed that Sally has Hargalaz as well, together there. So what I would be feeling into here is, first of all, is there any part of me that resists embodying embodying Algiz, embodying the Algiz energy? And if so, is that because I don't want to upset people or, make life uncomfortable, or is there another resistance in me that I should work with in some way to help that? And the second thing to do with the Algiz energy is to recognize, what is it that Algiz is seeking to preserve, is seeking to evolve me into? Again, there's an evolution happening, whereas North is an internal energy of that knowing that you need to evolve. Algiz is normally an external energy that happens, that causes the evolution to occur. So you're either having stuff happen to you that makes that evolution occur, or you are the person doing that. So I would have a look into both. Maybe for both of you, I would suggest a little bit of introspective work just around, when have I been a change maker and a disruptor? When have I been a change maker and a disruptor? And celebrate that. Celebrate that and build on that, and recognize that that energy is a powerful one and one that is needed in the world. Candy says, yes, it's working. Hooray! Yes, it was. You also got Tewa's reserve reversed. Now, this is really interesting. Let me feel if it's the same for you, Candice. It doesn't feel quite the same, actually. There is a little bit of... No, it is quite different, so I'm going to read this differently for you, Candice. So I'm seeing with the Tewa's rune here, I'm actually seeing like tectonic plates with almost like the continents, and they're meeting here, and this is the pressure that's being exerted on them, and they're shifting through it, and they're moving, and they're being awkward around it. And if you think about this in the context of Tyr, you might think about it with the legend of the Fenris wolf, of these forces of darkness and light were pressing against each other, and there was the threat of like an earthquake, I suppose, is the way you would look at it. And Tyr decided, I will sever, I will have myself like severed, literally. I will bind the Fenris wolf and I will make the sacrifice in order to ease this tension, or at least to sort of draw them apart. It's almost like that moment in which all of the forces are coming together and all of the energy is focused in one place, and then something needs to shift to allow the energy to move through. I think that it's saying sometimes the most the best thing that you can do is withdrawal. It's like, okay, if this tension is coming and the energy is pushing down, allow yourself that moment of withdrawal. It's almost like Tewas is saying, yes, some action is going to be needed, and yes, it is building and it is powerful, but at this point in time, I would suggest that tactical withdrawal, consider tactical withdrawal, and then, okay, what might need to be bound and held back, or what might need to be championed to move forward. And not that one or other is necessarily the right way. It's almost like, when you just get two opposing forces, and it doesn't mean that one's right and one's wrong, but it does mean that until agreement is made or a decision is made, it can feel very uncomfortable. So it's saying, if you're not ready to make any decisions, withdraw from them. Don't keep worrying about them. Don't keep focusing on them. And then when you're ready, recognise that it might not be that there's a right decision or a wrong decision, but sometimes it's better to take a decision. So, yeah, don't stay in the place of tension. Stacey says, hello, I haven't pulled a rune yet, but good morning. Good morning to you. Lisa says that she has Suello. So we've had Suello once already. Am I feeling anything else? I don't think so. I think that sense of knowing what tools you already have is the key one. I'm seeing that vision of the Viking ship, and it's like these glittering tools, the equipment that's upon it that's going to support you. So I would look at that, Lisa. I would just look at... For you, maybe there is a little bit of a drawing in. For Erica, I didn't feel it as strongly, but for you, there might be almost like there's a missing piece on your ship. So what is like a piece of learning or a course or something, a book, I don't know what it is, something that you want to add to your repertoire that's going to support you in journeying forward is what I'm feeling with Suello there. Pamela says, great to be here. Good morning. You have Rado as well. So I'm reminded of Chen. Obviously, we've talked about Rado. We've talked about making routine sacred and using it as a way of gaining momentum, of recognizing that, you know, when we move from one task to another, and we can often just stay seated in our chairs, and it's like, you know, I finished that email, I'm going to move on to this email now, but we don't move or shift, and so we stay stuck in the stagnant energy of the previous email. And Rado is that reminder that, you know, when people say, oh, you can go and make a cup of tea and it's a waste of time, I don't agree. If we do so mindfully, and we say the purpose of me going away is to come back with the energy that I need for this next task, then Rhodo is calling into movement. So that's what I would recommend for you, Pamela, is to look at those two pieces, look at the routines and the rituals and how you can make them sacred. You know, I should say routines, maybe. Obviously rituals, we might think of them as being sacred, but how can you make those routines more sacred, and how can you use simple acts of movement to shift energy, to shift focus, to step into what you need to be in the next moment. Alessandra, you have Perthro, same as Suzanne. Let's feel if there's anything more coming through. I can feel some new ideas bubbling beneath the surface for you there, Alessandra. Some the Perthro energy feels more powerful and more like it wants to come up, like a geyser. You know, with Suzanne, I was talking about the ice and almost like she was fishing. This feels more like a geyser coming up. So for you, I would be looking at moments of serendipity, little opportunities that come up, things that you go, oh, that's interesting. Look for those moments and what they might mean for you. As they pop up, look for, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, it's almost like saying I'm totally open to the messages of the universe right now. You know? So do your daily gratitudes, do your noticing things that happened that were lucky in the day, and then say, more of this please, more of this please. Allow the Perthro energy to come flooding through. It feels like a blessing, it feels like benevolence to me there, Alessandra. So yeah, invite that Perthro energy in, invite the unexpected in, pay attention to it and ask for more of it. Jared, good morning. You do Tewas and Quill, so I'm going to do the Tewas because I do one rune and one rune only. So we've done Tewas upside down twice. We're going to do it the right way up now to see what comes there. For you, it's focus. I would say it's a recognition that at the moment the energy is designed to hold us back. And so the key here is, if there is something that you really need to get done, and for most of them there is normally something that we need to get done, you want to harness that Tewas energy and stay totally focused and be really aware of when your attention is being pulled off in another direction. You remember I was talking about the Rado rune? So some key questions for you to ask yourself before you start any task are, what support do I need? What energy do I need to be in order to complete this? Are there any obstacles that need to be cleared before I do it? And to create an environment that is distraction free. All of these things are vital, and it's saying, do not choose too many things. Recognize that our energy resources are limited at this time, and therefore if you want to achieve something, you're going to have to use all of your focus to get it done. And so what I would do is I would actually get your Tewas rune out, or draw your Tewas rune when you're ready to start, and keep it going there. And every time you feel yourself distracted, go back to your Tewas rune and allow it to guide you in the right way. Laura says, thank you for explaining Frigg's story. I always want to know more about how your rune is Hagalaz. We have done Hagalaz. We're talking about disruption and whether it is disruption happening to you or the energy of the disruptor. So again, I'm going to suggest that same exercise for you, Lauren, is about recognizing, when have I been the disruptor? And conversely, if you're listening to this and you think to yourself, have I ever been the disruptor? If you haven't been, why? Because if you haven't ever been the disruptor, it means that you're going to be uncomfortable with Hagalaz energy. You're going to find it difficult to harness that. When we recognise Hagalaz within us, when we recognise that there are times when we shake it up, times when we speak uncomfortable truths, times when we are for whatever reason, the delivering mechanism for a lesson for somebody else that has nothing to do with us, and that they might find that challenging, then we're able to embrace Hagalaz energy more fully when it happens to us too. So that's why we're doing that piece around celebrating when you have been the disruptor. And if you haven't been the disruptor, looking at why that might be, you might want to get some help with that. Again, as I say now, I do have gateway sessions for people if they're looking for quite significant breakthroughs for themselves. You can find those on the website. Maggie, you have Feyu. We have done Feyu. I'm just looking at how many more we've got. I don't think we've got many more because I'm not going to be able to do many more because we are running to time. So with your Feyu, is there anything more that we had from Freya and that sense of really celebrating, harnessing the full moon energy? I think for you, Maggie, the only thing I would add into that is tending to your Feyu flow. So when Feyu isn't flowing very well for us, its energy gets stuck, it gets stagnant. So actually doing things like going to the local charity shop and buying yourself a small item or donating to charity. I know a lady who just didn't have like finances at the time, and she went and she donated blood instead to sort of get that Feyu energy flowing. So it's either receiving or giving outwards of life force. Obviously, like money can be life force. You can also give food or you can eat food. So it's really tending to the flow of Feyu for you, Maggie, is what I'm feeling within that as well. Stacey says, I'm so excited that I missed. Oh, excellent! Yes, I am looking forward to them too. So I will be posting shortly about the next retreat that's coming up for Imolc. Carolyn says, thank you for your words and wisdom. We'll take these questions in the interim meditation. Wonderful. Deanne, so much rich insight speaking directly to my life this morning. That is great. I'm so pleased for you. Esther says, thank you. I'll do a ritual for this week, envisioning standing in the rainbow energy. Wonderful. Karen says, yes, I love the visual of drawing up that lovely earth energy. Good. Lauren, love the about the Pokemon linking to the roots. Indeed, I have to. Sometimes you have to bring out that creativity, don't you? I love the Pokemon and God energies. Michelle says seed, growth, balance. Wonderful. Networking is something I'll try to prepare for soon. Good. Deanne, every word you spoke was perfect for me in this moment. Wonderful. I am so pleased. And Jared says, thank you for your wisdom and insight, getting the kids ready for school, so I have to head out. That's fine. These sessions are tending to get a little bit longer, which is great because there's so many of you coming. But I do so much appreciate the people who come from the beginning and stay to the end, because I know that it's a big chunk of time. Candice is super accurate for me right now. Alessandra says it makes a lot of sense. Lauren says, thank you and spot on about my being uncomfortable with Hagalaz energy. Excellent. So yeah, something to feel into. Wonderful. Thank you so much for journeying with me for this session, which was actually, it was just over an hour because obviously I started a bit late. So I really appreciate everybody. Lovely to see you. Really feeling some beautiful energies coming through, and yes, wonderful blessings for your week ahead.